Hey guys, good morning. It's actually a beautiful day out today. It was a little cold in the morning, but now it's starting to warm up. Partly cloudy. I will say, I think I've talked about it before, colder weather is generally better for running. But I prefer, and when it comes to the extremes, I actually prefer to run in extreme heat as compared to the freezing cold because I really hate the wind and, like the snow. Um, with the heat, I've generally had pretty good heat tolerance, but either way, the weather like this, where it's like, not super hot but also not like super cold either. It just feels so refreshing when you're running. I mean, you feel like you could just run like endless miles and you're not going to feel super dehydrated. So it's really good running weather. I will say I'm sorry I have not been the most consistent lately, but basically I'm getting prepared for my full marathon, which is the IMT on October 19th, and my goal is to break 240. So I've been doing a lot of training over the last several months. I've gotten a lot better, much better endurance. I went from starting out at like 30, 40 miles a week, in terms of like my first marathon. And now I've built up to doing really high, pretty high mileage, nothing crazy, of like 80, 90, and even like 100. I had 1 week where I did 105 miles. So overall, by increasing the mileage, that has just led to like better endurance, especially when it comes to marathon distance. This 26.2 miles is no joke. So doing higher mileage is really going to help if you want to run a good time. On top of that, I've had pretty good speed sessions overall, I'd say, throughout the last several months. In the last like a month and a half, I haven't really done a whole lot of speed, and it's just been a rough, stressful time period. But I've kind of been building it back up. So I think it was this Saturday that just passed. I wanted to hit a couple miles at my goal marathon pace at 6:05. So I wore my super shoes for the workout, and in total, I wanted to get a good 12-mile run in and have like 5 or 6 miles at that marathon pace. Unfortunately, that didn't really work out very well. I was kind of going at about like a 7. Well, my average pace was 7:08, but I didn't really start out as fast, and then kind of towards the end, I was able to pick it up. So I was actually watching a video by Connor Mance where he talks about running fast when your legs are tired. Now, I think Connor Mance is really cool. I mean, I hope he sets the American record. I've been watching some of those Nike videos, and I watched, him do that workout around Central Park, where it's like 6 miles at like a 4:40 pace or something, which is insane. And also, the recent video where there's like countdown to the Chicago Marathon. And I also watched this video where he did recently a 20-mile long run, and he was going at like 5:30 pace for like the first like 10 miles or something, and then after that he was able to do like a 4-mile pickup at around like that, his like marathon pace, like 4:40 or something insane like that, and then finished off the last couple miles at like 5:30 pace. So I think, I find it very inspiring, and I look up to a lot of these elite runners and seeing what I can incorporate into my training. But basically, even though I have not had the best speed sessions lately, this Tuesday I'm going to try to do around 3 or 4 miles at goal marathon pace, as part of like a 7-mile run. Hopefully I don't waste out the super shoes this time. But overall, I've had some pretty good races in this last year, really good half marathons, I feel like. And so even if I don't have the best speed sessions, I know I'm still capable of running really well in the race. And I would say, since it's so close to the race, we only got a week now, whatever speed I do is not really going to impact, it's not going to make much of a difference in terms of my performance. But, however, I've done a lot of really good training in the last several months. So I just know that, yeah, my body's capable of running a really good time. I mean, I really want to break 240. It's definitely doable. And and I could worry more about the speed sessions and the high mileage like after the race. But for now, just really locking in, trying to get good sleep. The last few days have not been the best. Hasn't been the worst sleep, but it's just been a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety. Um, and so just kind of working on that. And overall, I've been doing more stretching, so that's kind of helped. I'll do like quad pulls, hold it for like 30 seconds, do some like knee hugs. Leg swings are great. That really helps you feel loose. And I'll kind of do that before I run, after I run. If I'm doing doubles, yeah, I'll do it multiple times, just kind of throughout the day. They're really good, really easy stretches. Try to at least foam roll once, just really helps with your recovery. So I would say, yeah, the only unfortunate thing is I wish I could record some of these speed sessions, but right now I don't have a lot of money, and I've never been it's tough with a lot of these YouTube influencers. I don't exactly know how they film themselves. And it kind of makes sense that they wouldn't reveal it because it's their own thing. However, my plan is, yeah, I'm not a big fan of bringing things or carrying things when I run, and I'm definitely not going to record myself with my phone. But I'm looking at this Insta360 Go S camera, and it's $400, and then also kind of. But I think that'll be. I want to be able to save up and get that and use it to record some of the sessions because I heard it's got like a magnetic clip where you could attach it to your shirt, so that's really cool. So I would say like yeah, I can definitely try to see if I can get some film of my race because it's something I've really been looking forward to, and also I could just kind of like record a quick video before the race and then kind of like let you guys know how it goes, kind of like how I did with the Capital Pursuit 10 miler. But yeah, overall, I feel pretty well prepared. I've been eating healthy. Sleep could be a little better, but overall, it's been a lot better than it was a couple months ago. And I'm really looking forward to this race. I've had a pretty good tapering. My legs feel 100 times better, with just doing all that stretching and recovery and sleep and all that. And I did 81 miles 2 weeks ago. This week, I finished with 76 miles. And now next week, I plan on finishing with about 70 miles. So that's just kind of like help me feel fresh. And because the race is on Sunday, I'll have about 44 miles heading into the race. So it feels like a good tapering strategy because I know a lot of people talk about tapering. I've heard some people mention to do 50% of your average workload, but I actually think that if you taper too much, that's also going to make you you're not going to feel as fresh, and that's just going to because I've noticed it myself where I had a week where I did 93 miles, then I did 67 the next week, and that's a huge taper because you're cutting off 25 miles, or 26, sorry. And so basically, I actually felt worse during that 70 or 67 mile week. But if you kind of do a gradual taper like how I did, like 3 weeks before the race, doing 81, and just given the amount of mileage that I've been doing, that actually feels pretty light, and not really a whole lot of speed, but trying to get some decent track workouts and trying to do some of that goal marathon pace stuff. So yeah, kind of like a gradual taper where it's like, if I did 81, then yeah, I'm cutting off 5 miles and then like another 5. And overall, I've just noticed that feels so much better. But if you just kind of like, say you go from 80 and then drop down to like 65 or 60, like that's a huge taper. And I personally would not recommend that because like your body is like so used to running that high mileage, like if you're doing that. And then if you just cut off 20 miles, like your body's going to be like, okay, what the hell just happened? And I mean, it could be like maybe like a little bit of a mindset thing or anxiety, but generally speaking, I do think tapering is important because you want to run the best race that you possibly can. But I personally think that if you're like whatever your base mileage is, if you're doing lower mileage, it's a totally different story. But if you're doing like at least over 60 miles a week, then to me, just cutting out like a bunch of miles, to taper, I personally would not recommend that. Anyways, I'm really, looking forward to the race. It starts at 8 o'clock, and I worked the day before, which kind of sucks. But anyways, yeah, I hope I can break that 240. I hope it can inspire other people as well to be able to, run good races, hit their goals, achieve their fitness goals. And I hope this is helpful. And thank you. Peace out.
Sometimes you gotta pray for a victory.
Artlist.io.
Yeah, I'm overzealous when I'm thinking about the cash flow. I never had no handouts, just came natural. I've been tested so much, all these restless nights, all these different situations that I've been through. I seen pain trying to creep in through the window, but now I'm sliding